A single gunshot rang out, and all of Fort Bragg, North Carolina, fell into stunned silence. Ava Harper, the young woman mocked by everyone as she stepped onto the SEAL shooting range, had just hit the bullseye with unimaginable precision. The smirks and sneers faded instantly as SEAL General John Caldwell caught sight of the tattoo on her spine, a symbol that left him reeling in shock. Ava was no ordinary girl. She carried a secret from her father, a fallen hero who had made the ultimate sacrifice. Would she rise above the prejudice to rewrite history? What was the secret she bore? Beneath the blazing sky of Fort Bragg, North Carolina, the scorching sunlight draped the shooting range in a brilliant golden hue. Ava Harper stepped forward, her worn backpack swaying lightly on her shoulder, her dark hair tied tightly at the nape of her neck, her eyes gleaming with an extraordinary resolve. Her simple attire, a faded white t-shirt and cargo pants, stood in stark contrast to the gleaming, metal-adorned uniforms of the soldiers around her. They, the rugged SEAL warriors with chiseled physiques, eyed her with a mix of curiosity and disdain. A whisper cut through the air. "What does she think she's doing here?" Laughter followed, sharp and biting, like wind slicing through a desert. Ava didn't respond. She strode to the weapons rack, her slender but steady hands lifting an M16 with the confidence of someone seasoned by experience. The crowd continued their murmurs, their mocking words like stones hurled at her pride. But Ava was no stranger to this. In her eyes, deep and unwavering, lay memories of her father, a fallen SEAL who perished in a mission no one spoke of. He left her not only with grief, but with a tattoo on her spine, a mark of a vow. She would live to prove herself worthy of his legacy. At Fort Bragg, where the mightiest warriors were forged, Ava was an anomaly, a jarring presence. The soldiers, their chests heavy with medals, couldn't fathom why a slight young woman dared to set foot here. One soldier, his voice low and laced with sarcasm, muttered to his comrade, "She's probably just looking for attention." But Ava didn't hear, or perhaps chose not to. She inspected her rifle, each movement deliberate and precise, like a sacred ritual. Every touch of the cold metal carried the warmth of her father's lessons, those long nights in the Smoky Mountains when he taught her to steady her hand through a storm. The sweltering heat beaded sweat on Ava's forehead, but her eyes never wavered. In her mind, her father's image burned vividly, his rare smile, his steadfast gaze as he spoke of his SEAL days. "You're stronger than they think, Ava," he had said. Those words now blazed like a fire in her chest, urging her to stand tall against the doubting stares. The tattoo on her spine, hidden beneath her thin shirt, served as a reminder of her burden, not just to prove herself, but to protect her father's legacy. The soldiers around her, proud victors of battlefields, couldn't see the story behind Ava. They saw only a girl who didn't belong, an outsider daring to challenge the unspoken rules of the range. But Ava didn't need their understanding. She needed only a chance, one shot to silence the world. Her hands tightened around the rifle, her gaze sweeping to the distant target. In that moment, she was more than Ava Harper. She was the embodiment of courage and an unbreakable promise. The first shot would change everything, but could she do it? All right, before you settle in, take a sec to like the video and subscribe, but only if you're genuinely vibing with what I'm putting out here. And drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a thrill to see who's joining us from all corners of the globe.
Welcome to Veteran Silent Story, where forgotten battles come alive in powerful tales. Subscribe now and honor the silence that shaped our freedom.
The Appalachian Mountains of Tennessee stretched out like a wild, untamed painting where oak forests and swirling mists intertwined in the pale light of dawn. Ava Harper, a 10-year-old girl at the time, once held her father's hand, a towering former SEAL with a voice as deep as stone as they walked along leaf-strewn trails. He taught her to shoot, not just to hit a target, but to steady her mind against life's tempests. Under the sunlight filtering through the canopy, he smiled, calling her his little warrior, and instilled in her a belief that she could face any challenge. But when her father fell in a covert mission, Ava's world in Pigeon Forge crumbled. He left behind a crumpled note. "You must be strong, for the world is never kind to people like us." Those words became a guiding flame, propelling her on a journey to find the mysterious artifact her father had spoken of, a treasure hidden in an ancient temple deep within the Smoky Mountains. This quest was not merely to uncover an object, but to prove that she, a young woman with her dark hair tied neatly back, could carry the legacy of a hero. In the small wooden cabin, Ava opened her father's old chest, her heart pounding as she touched a hand-drawn map, its trembling lines carrying the echo of his final breaths. The map pointed to a forgotten temple, a place where seal warriors once tested their resolve. Now grown, Ava ventured into the dense forest, where thick fog obscured every path. The rugged trails, slippery cliffs, and the howling wind through the leaves challenged her courage, but Ava pressed on. Each step was a declaration that she was not just the daughter of a seal, but the embodiment of the resilience he had passed down. Memories of her father flooded Ava's mind as she climbed the mountain slopes. She recalled the nights he taught her to navigate by the stars, sharing tales of missions he never fully revealed. The tattoo on her spine, a seal emblem he had etched into her, burned like a torch lighting her way, yet the pain of losing him cut like a blade, piercing her heart whenever she pondered why he had to die. The villagers in Pigeon Forge whispered of the temple as a sacred place, one only the bravest dared approach. Ava feared neither darkness nor danger, but she dreaded failing to find what her father had died to protect. Under the silver moonlight, Ava paused before a stone carved with ancient symbols, the first sign of the temple. The worn map in her hands seemed to hold a greater story, not just a destination, but a challenge. The tattoo on her spine blazed, as if affirming she was on the path her father had charted. But where did the map truly lead, and did Ava have the strength to face the secret awaiting her? The Smoky Mountains lay shrouded in thick fog, where rugged trails led Ava Harper through wild forests, the howling wind whispering echoes of the past. After days of battling slippery cliffs and bone-chilling cold, she stood before an ancient temple, a relic of the days when SEAL veterans forged their resolve. The crumbling stone walls, draped in green moss, still carried an air of sanctity, as if guarding a secret only the bravest dared to seek. Ava stepped inside, the light from her trembling torch flickering across walls etched with ancient riddles. The symbols, intricate as a labyrinth, demanded sharp intellect and unwavering courage. Each of Ava's footsteps echoed in the dark corridors, a haunting reminder of her father, a former SEAL, who once faced these very trials. The tattoo on her spine, the emblem he left her, pulsed like a second heartbeat, urging her forward even as the darkness seemed poised to swallow her whole. In a frigid chamber, Ava met Lucas Kane, a man whose face bore the scars of time, his deep-set eyes carrying unspoken pain. Lucas, her father's old comrade, now lived as a recluse, a shadow haunting the forest. His hands, calloused from years of combat, moved with a soldier's precision, but his gaze darted away as if hiding a dark truth. He agreed to guide Ava through the temple, yet his reluctance in every gesture stirred unease within her. She needed him, but could she trust him? Together they faced deadly traps. A massive stone door, weighing tons, slammed shut, severing their retreat. Dark mazes, with floors collapsing without warning and walls shifting ominously, tested both Ava's physical endurance and mental fortitude. She solved the riddles, her mind as sharp as a blade, but her heart pounded fiercely with each peril. Lucas, though assisting, maintained a cold distance, as if he knew something Ava couldn't yet grasp. Each challenge was a reminder of her father, of the nights in Pigeon Forge when he taught her to confront fear. The pain of losing her father, like a chilling wind, wrapped around Ava in the temple's darkness. She recalled his warm, steady voice, his lessons on resilience. The tattoo on her spine, the seal emblem, whispered to her, affirming she was treading the path he had charted. Yet the temple, with its cold mysteries, seemed to test not just her strength but her faith in herself. Ava felt the weight of her duty. She had to find the artifact her father died to protect, not just for him, but for the legacy she carried within. As they reached the final door, adorned with seal symbols, a chill ran down Ava's spine. The door creaked open, revealing a pitch-black chamber, where something astonishing emerged in the torchlight. What awaited her? And where would it lead? The faint light from the torch in Ava Harper's hand trembled, casting flickering shadows on the cold stone walls of the ancient temple, where the darkness seemed alive, swallowing every sound in a stifling silence. Deep within the heart of the Smoky Mountains, the crumbling temple stood resolute, a silent witness to broken oaths and buried secrets. Its chipped stone columns, draped in green moss, still exuded an air of majesty, as if guarding a story only the bravest dared to touch. Ava stood face to face with Lucas Kane, the man who had once been her father's closest friend, now bearing a weathered face, with deep-set wrinkles and haunted eyes, as if carrying the weight of an unforgivable sin. In the heavy stillness of the stone chamber, Lucas bowed his head, the torchlight illuminating his face, revealing a profound pain. He confessed a truth sharp as a blade. He had stolen the seal gem, the sacred symbol of loyalty and unity among seal warriors. Personal ambition, like a dark storm, had guided him, leading him to betray the oath that once bound him to Ava's father. The gem, according to legend, was not merely a sparkling jewel but held an invisible power connecting soldiers through their fiercest trials, shielding them from the darkness of war. Lucas, once entrusted with its protection, had let greed cloud his judgment, stealing the gem in hopes of gaining power and glory. But now, in the frigid chamber, he was merely a shadow of the warrior he once was, each wrinkle on his face etched with regret, like a scar that would never heal. Ava felt a surge of anger flare in her chest, like ocean waves crashing against a rocky shore. The tattoo on her spine, the seal emblem her father had etched before his sacrifice, burned against her skin, a searing reminder of the betrayal Lucas had committed. Memories of her father, of the days in Gatlinburg when he taught her about loyalty and sacrifice, flooded back like a torrent. He had told her that a true warrior fights not just for themselves, but for those they love, for the values they hold dear. The gem was not just an artifact, it was her father's legacy, the fire he had passed to her to carry forward. But Ava, with eyes cold yet brimming with resolve, suppressed her anger. She looked straight at Lucas, not with rage, but with a fierce belief that forgiveness could heal the wounds of the past, that even someone who had lost their way could find the path again. They stood in the darkness, where ancient symbols carved into the stone walls seemed to recount the tales of seal warriors who had passed through, those who faced fear and temptation. Ava thought of her father, of the lessons he taught under Tennessee's starry skies, of how he placed his hand on her shoulder, his voice warm but firm. The gem, she realized, was not just a sacred object but the embodiment of loyalty and sacrifice, the values her father had lived and died for. Returning the gem to Coronado, California, was not only a way to honor her father but also a chance to help Lucas atone, to rediscover the light in his soul. Lucas, though his eyes still held a trace of doubt, nodded, as if Ava's words had rekindled a long-extinguished spark of hope. They began preparing for the journey, each step echoing through the temple like a renewed vow, a promise that the past could be redeemed. But as they turned to leave, a mysterious figure glided through the shadows, like a formless specter, leaving only a chilling sensation. Ava sensed its presence, her heart pounding as if the temple itself were whispering a warning of an unseen danger. "Lucas," with the instincts of a former SEAL, tightened his grip, his eyes scanning the dark corners where the torchlight could not reach. The journey to Coronado, where the gem belonged, was now not just a mission of redemption but a new trial, where Ava would face invisible threats lurking in wait. The tattoo on her spine, like an unyielding torch, illuminated the path ahead but also reminded her that this road was fraught with peril. Who was this mysterious figure, and what did they want with the seal gem? Dear audience, grab a glass of water, take a moment to relax, and keep listening to the story. The twists are still to come. And please drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a joy to see who's joining us from around the world. Drop a 1 in the comments if you find this story gripping so we can keep bringing you more captivating tales. Under the blinding sunlight of Coronado, California, the SEAL shooting range hummed with a tense silence, as if the air itself held its breath before a fateful moment. Ava Harper stood at the center, her dark hair tied high and neat, her deep brown eyes blazing with resolute fire. Before her was General John Caldwell, a man whose commanding presence seemed carved from stone, his piercing gaze sharp as a blade, revered among SEALs for his uncompromising fairness and iron discipline. He ordered Ava to prove she was worthy of returning the SEAL gem to its rightful place, a grueling challenge not meant for the weak. Ava felt the weight of her father's legacy pressing down on her shoulders like a mountain, yet she stood tall, unwavering. The shooting range, with its target standing proud under the scorching sun, became the arena where Ava had to claim her place. The soldiers around her, their medals glinting on their chests, and their eyes filled with skepticism, regarded her as an outsider daring to tread on their sacred ground. Whispers spread, soft jeers echoing, recalling the days she was mocked at Fort Bragg, but Ava paid them no mind. She lifted the M16, her slender but steady hands checking the rifle with the precision of someone forged from childhood. Each movement, from loading the magazine to inspecting the barrel, was like a sacred ritual, carrying memories of her father, a former SEAL who taught her to shoot under the Tennessee sky. When the whistle sounded, signaling the start of the test, Ava took aim, her breathing steady, her gaze focused like an arrow. Each shot tore through the air, striking the bullseye with such pinpoint accuracy that the stands fell silent. The bullets didn't just pierce the targets, they shattered the wall of prejudice that had surrounded her. The initial mocking laughter faded, replaced by stunned awe. The soldiers, their hardened faces and once doubtful eyes now fixed on her, looked at Ava with reluctant respect. She wasn't just shooting, she was rewriting her story. Each bullet a declaration that she belonged here, belonged to her father's legacy. The pivotal moment came when Ava, sweat rolling down her cheek, shed her jacket in the searing heat of Coronado. Under the blazing sun, the tattoo on her spine was revealed, the SEAL emblem, etched by her father's hand before he sacrificed himself to protect the gem's secret. The crowd fell silent, as if time itself had paused. General Caldwell, his usually stoic face like stone, was visibly struck, his eyes wavering like the sea. He recognized Ava as the daughter of his closest friend, a comrade who fell in a covert mission to safeguard the gem. Memories of fighting side by side, of sworn oaths of loyalty and long nights sharing dreams, surged in Caldwell's mind like a raging wave. That tattoo, like a blazing torch, illuminated the path Ava walked, proclaiming she was not just a young girl, but the heir to a SEAL legacy. Ava stood tall, the SEAL gem clutched tightly in her hand, its light merging with the fire in her eyes. Lucas Kane, standing quietly at the edge, bowed his head, as if Ava's resilience had reignited a spark in his soul, a former warrior once lost to greed. Caldwell looked at Ava, his gaze no longer merely stern, but filled with profound respect. She held the gem, feeling its weight, not just an object, but a symbol of loyalty, sacrifice, and courage. The tattoo on her spine, like a second heartbeat, reminded her of her father, of the promise she had to keep, of the days he taught her to stand firm against the storm. But as Ava prepared to hand the gem to Caldwell, a flash of light sparked from the stone, as if issuing a warning. A chill ran down her spine, like a whisper of an unseen threat. In that moment, Ava's eyes swept across the stands, where a vague figure stood silently, its gaze hidden in the shadows, watching her like a specter. Her heart pounded, not from fear but from a premonition that her journey was far from over. The gem had been returned to its rightful place, but what new danger was lurking, and would Ava have the strength to face it? Who was that shadowy figure, and what did they want with the gem? At Coronado, California, the solemn ceremony at the SEAL Training Center unfolded under radiant sunlight, the air thick with reverence and hope. Ava Harper stood before the ancient stone altar, where deeply carved SEAL symbols served as a reminder of loyalty and sacrifice. In her hands rested the SEAL gem, the sacred artifact once stolen, now shimmering like a small flame, carrying the souls of fallen warriors. The crowd, from battle-hardened soldiers to dignified generals, gazed at Ava with eyes no longer filled with doubt, but with profound respect. The Fort Bragg shooting range, where she had once been mocked, now felt like a distant memory. Ava placed the gem on the altar, her hands steady but her heart pounding with the weight of the moment. As the gem touched the stone, a flash of light erupted, as if breaking an invisible curse that had caused many SEAL warriors to lose faith in their ideals. Thunderous applause broke out, echoing across the range where mocking laughter once reigned. The soldiers who had once seen her as an outsider now stood at attention, clapping as if to honor not just Ava, but the legacy she embodied. The tattoo on her spine, the SEAL emblem her father etched before his sacrifice, burned against her skin, a vivid reminder of her journey from the Smoky Mountains to this very moment. Lucas Kane, standing quietly at the edge, his haunted eyes now flickering with hope. The man who had stolen the gem out of greed carried his regret like an unhealed scar. Ava's unwavering resolve, from the ancient temple to the shooting range, had forced him to confront himself. Lucas resolved to remain in Coronado, dedicating himself to training the next generation of SEALs as a path to redemption. Every word he spoke to the recruits was a pledge, an effort to reclaim the honor he had lost, inspired by the light Ava brought forth. Ava, now recognized as a symbol of courage, prepared to return to Fort Bragg, carrying pride not only for the gem, but for transforming how the world saw her. The tattoo on her spine was more than a memory of her father. It was proof of her power to overcome prejudice, from the days of ridicule to this moment of reverence. Her story of forgiveness and sacrifice inspired the SEAL soldiers, reminding them of the meaning behind the oath they carried. Ava stood there, her eyes blazing, feeling the weight of her father's legacy. As the ceremony drew to a close, the gem on the altar glowed, as if recounting the story of Ava, her father, and the SEAL warriors. Yet a sense of unease crept into her heart. In her pocket, she found an old letter from her father, its faded words revealing a new secret, like a fresh challenge. Ava clutched the letter tightly, her heart racing, as if her journey was far from over. What was this secret, and what would it change? Ava Harper's story is not merely a journey to return the SEAL gem to Coronado. It is a testament that courage and forgiveness can shatter every prejudice. From a girl mocked and scorned, Ava earned the respect of all Fort Bragg, thanks to the tattoo on her spine, a symbol of unyielding will and the legacy her father left behind. Her lesson reminds us that, no matter how the world doubts you, believing in yourself can rewrite the story of your life. Every scar, every pain, can become a flame to light your path. This story is a healing balm for anyone who has ever felt abandoned or belittled. Let Ava inspire you to rise, face your challenges, and prove your worth. What do you think of Ava's journey? Leave a comment, share your own story. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to discover more inspiring tales from America. What secret will her father's letter reveal? Stay tuned to find out.